Welcome to a new series on Newcastle Live where we sit down with the musicians who play in venues and keep the dance floors pumping around Newcastle and the Hunter every weekend. We're kicking things off by talking to ARIA, Logie and Helpmann Award winner Tim Harding. A lot of people would know Tim from his time in High Five, but since moving to Newcastle in 2016, he has been working as a soloist as well as fronting a funk soul band called Soultraders. One of the moments that was pretty, I wasn't expecting from you was that first time that you got up at Temple of the Stag pulled out Killing in the Name of.
Yeah.
And so what are the preferred genres that you like to sing in, and what do you find challenging?
I say my preferred genres are probably rock.
Yeah, cool.
I really love that sort of powerful thing, but it's kind of like it's the blues-based rock that really sort of gets me, right? So most of the rock through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, all of that sort of stuff, there's very much, it sort of leans back to that kind of blues-based sort of pentatonic scale, kind of those sorts of things, and that's where I love to play around and I love to sit. So essentially rock and roll.
Yeah.
But having said that, like I also love, and when I work with a function band, it's all sort of soul and funk and those kind of sounds. And because there's that whole other thing that I kind of really dig getting into and being able to play with those sort of different styles as well. There's a real mix. I often get asked at gigs if I do any country.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of like, do I look like a country guy? I don't really do country. I've occasionally, done a few sort of country songs.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Sorry.
Yeah,
that was
you're
just
right.
The light. What are the songs that you lean on when you do have to pull out a country number?
It's tenuous.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do some Keith Urban or, something that's like, come in, it's pop music, let's face it, it's not really country. And there's certain songs that, I don't know, I've always refused to do. And maybe it's nonsensical, maybe it's literally just a case of, okay, you're being silly now.
Yeah. Maybe
I am. I don't do Sweet Caroline.
Okay.
I don't do The Gambler. And everyone always complains, like, how can you not do The Gambler? I'm like, I'm just not doing Kenny Rogers. Like, I'm just not going to do it.
Fair.
But, and I've always stuck to that because, when you learn a song, there's a process, right? And particularly when you work as a soloist. So, I've got a very sort of sophisticated, it looks sophisticated, it's actually, pretty basic if you put it together.
Yeah.
But, there's all different effects and loops and everything I try to use to try and build up the sound to make it sound bigger than just me and a guitar. But there's a process of learning a song that involves using all of that stuff and having to learn what you're going to do when and all that sort of thing. And so I've just never bothered to go through things like that to try and to work out the way. It's like, if I'm going to learn a song, I want it to be something I really enjoy singing.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like Sweet Caroline would be kind of a boring song to build up in a way too.
Yeah. It's one of those songs that, even if, it's not like I have a particular distaste for songs like that, but because everyone loves them, you hear them all the time.
Yeah.
And then when you rehearse something, you play it over and over and over and over again. And so if you're gonna do that with a song, it better be something you're really keen on,
Yeah, definitely.
And so you can just grow tired. And and I've got songs that I've dropped after a while because I've just done them to death.
Yeah,
and
just had enough.
Yeah, and so I always, every performance, I will always try, particularly songs that I've played 4 or 5 times already that weekend. I will try and pull something new out of that song every single time. I'll play something different. I'll just sing a line a different way, or I'll whatever it is, to keep it fresh, because that, for me, is part of what I enjoy about music. It's being creative and being able to, I don't know, just kind of change things up every time. And as a performer, that's where the fun is. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you do it, you go, oh, that didn't work. but a lot of times it does. And so then maybe you do that thing again next time, or you just change it up. But if you can keep things, even just in a very small way, fresh, you're doing it. The audience has got no idea. But that's what keeps me coming back. That's why I don't tire of what I do.
Yeah, definitely. And it can be a very tiring gig, there's so much behind the scenes work, as you were saying, and then also just being up there, and especially when you're a solo artist, going to the gig by yourself and working your butt off for a couple of hours. What are some songs that you really love playing at the moment?
Well, I mean, obviously anything new and fresh that I would do is always fun. But I do think there's certain songs that I think as a vocalist are very edifying. And so often those will be Diesel songs or John Stevens songs, or anything where it's a vocalist that has a real solid kind of power. And I really like to, I guess, try and do that. And also, so I do Take Me Back by Noiseworks. That's an example of a song where, John Stevens' original vocal on it was just massive. That guy's got such a huge voice. And so, trying to do that. And then also, every time I play it, trying to do something a little different, trying to change what I do or change my interpretation of the song ever so slightly each time, or push a little here or hold back a little there. Those are the sorts of things that make it really sort of edifying. But stuff I think that's in the right part of my vocal range, where I really get to, use that core and just, just belt really loudly. That's the stuff I really dig.
So I'd love to know, going back to, what we were just talking about, is there anything that makes a gig better in terms of audience participation or, standards in the venues, that makes you have a better gig?
I mean, weirdly enough, I was talking with my wife a little while ago about this, just because there's often venues that I really like doing, and it might be a really simple thing, but if there's a designated stage area that's raised, it just means that the punters aren't walking over the top, or are less likely to trip on a cable or walking over your gear or anything like that. Now, obviously not every venue can do that, and there's no even though that's great, it's also, the other thing that, in terms of an audience you love is obviously if you have an audience, because if you're playing to a room and nobody's really paying attention, it's not I'm not still happy in that environment. I can be, because that's, for me, that's when I have the challenge of kind of looking out across the room as I'm playing, and just sort of seeing who's tapping their foot, who's doing this on the table. I was because every now and then people just, they're acting really cool or whatever, but they will be tapping their foot and you'll be like, gotcha. And it's that's really fun, so I always find ways of making that fun. But the venues that do have a designated sort of stage area, it does make my job a lot easier. And obviously, if you've got an audience that is listening actively and enjoying what you're doing, whether they're singing along or dancing or whatever, I mean, that's, as a performer, that's the fun. That's what you do.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk more about that skill that you just brought up of being able to read the room and try and alter your performance, to bring them into it. Can you walk me through that process? How do you work out what people want to hear?
What people want to hear? Yeah. I mean, I feel like sometimes it's a really delicate balance, because sometimes you're sort of looking around, people do want to talk, with each other. And if I just, if there's, groups of people and they're, sitting in their little groups and they're trying to have a discussion, you can see them leaning in and listening to each other and all that sort of stuff, because obviously the music's loud. I'm not then just about to bust out Mr. Brightside and try and, get everybody like there's sort of no point, you kind of, if anything, what you're going to do at that point is to sort of back things off a little bit and go, all right, well, I'm kind of just background music at the moment and that's fine. That's when you want to sort of slowly build things up. Alternatively, if you've already got a situation where there's people already on the dance floor and I was planning on just sort of starting slow and kind of winding up through the night, it's like, oh, well, there's already people here, you may as well just get into it. So I think, there's that other thing too. It's really just sort of paying attention to what people are doing. But yeah, usually at the beginning of a gig, I will kind of be looking around. I play a lot of stuff. I emphasize rhythm a lot. When I'm strumming my guitar and using, a stomp box and just when I'm turning on my bass pedal and stuff like that at different times, I really concentrate on locking everything in really, really tight. So the rhythm's really, really important to me. It's sort of, as a soloist for me, it's kind of fundamental, because if you can lock that rhythm in really, really tight, you're gonna grab people. They won't be able to help tapping their foot. It's just you're getting people subconsciously at that point. And once you've already roped them in, then they will start paying attention. And then as you sort of ramp up through the night, everyone ends up having a great time. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Totally. Was there a moment for you, like as a kid, where you were like, you knew that you wanted to be a muso? Or was it kind of a gradual thing?
Like I would love to say that there was one pivotal moment, but I feel like there were several.
Cool.
My parents, my dad played guitar, my mum sang. They were in a band. So as far back as I could remember, music was always there.
Yeah.
So, I think for me, one of the privileges I've had is that I always thought being a professional muso was a possibility. My grandmother was a professional singer.
Wow.
My grandfather was a professional drummer. So it's like being a professional musician was always something that, at least in my world, you could do that.
Yeah.
Like that was something you could do for a career. But I feel like John Farnham's You're the Voice, hearing that for the first time was like, wow, that was amazing. I'm trying to think. Electric Blue by Icehouse and Crazy off the same album.
Yes. Yes, bangers.
I remember watching the video clips on Rage and stuff like that, and as a kid, and just being like, wow. And just wanted to be a singer and guitarist like Ivor Davies was, and actually got to meet him in like 1999.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's a great story, actually. They were Roadshow was doing this thing for the Millennium kind of New Year's Eve sort of deal, and they were going to use Icehouse's song "Great Southern Land" for that, and Ivor Davies had done like an acoustic version of the song, or a rearrangement of the song, and he was there at this event that we were at in the lead up to it, and so anyway, they'd mentioned something about it, but as they were leading the high five, as they were leading us into the green room, walking in, there's Ivor Davies sitting there strumming his guitar, and I was like, oh my gosh. So we'd only been going a little while at this point, been together, working for about a year. So we'd done a tour and stuff, but hadn't really been to many events by that point. So this was kind of like, oh wow. And I just remember, because I had my guitar there, and I don't know, where the confidence came from, because I certainly wouldn't have it now. But I've just walked up and said, do you mind if I jam with you?
Stop it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, oh yeah, sure. And so here I'm sat down, and I'm just like playing stuff over the top of what he's doing, and I'm just like, man, I'm jamming with Ivor Davies from Icehouse.
Whoa.
From being this high.
Yeah.
That was he was one of my influences.
Such a full circle moment. That's crazy.
It was awesome.
Yeah. It's actually funny you say that, because I wanted to talk about the kind of like, I hate using the term fangirling, but when you're starstruck by someone, and I feel like this is something that you deal with quite a lot, being,
Yeah.
a pivotal point in your career was being in High Five.
Yeah.
How do you deal with being recognised so much? And do you still love being recognised?
Yeah, look, I feel like I'm always so happy to meet people who watched the show and who loved it, who maybe it's had an influence on their life in a positive way.
Yes.
And when people sort of share those stories, like it's always lovely. And I think if I'm being really honest, I probably didn't appreciate it anywhere near as much at the time. But now being a dad, and the sorts of things that my kids are into, I appreciate a lot more the impact that's had. And so I think now, like I feel really grateful. People say, "Oh, you must get sick of it." And it's like, I don't really.
Yeah,
If that's the truth. It was an incredibly important part of my career and my life. And so just having people come up and sort of sharing their experience or sharing their the time they saw us, or them learning the dances and all that sort of stuff. It's always fun.
Yeah. How did you get into High Five? Like, how did that opportunity come about?
I just auditioned.
Yeah. That's so cool.
There was an audition process, and I think at the time, I had an acting agent who was sending me for stuff. And
how old were you? Sorry,
when you were in there? Well, we did the pilot in '98, so I was 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was 20 when we started, and I was 29 when I left. So High Five was that was my 20s. Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And did you feel like a 20-year-old being in like a kid's, band?
Man.
Like, it would have been so hard.
Well, yeah, it wasn't. And in some ways it was, and in other ways it was like the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because I think I recognised pretty early on, even though I had massive imposter syndrome, going in there, because like everyone was like so good looking and so talented, and I was like, what am I doing here? And they could all dance really well, and I was just like never done anything like it. So it was, that was a baptism of fire. But it was sort of, other than that stuff, I really got the feeling, or at least the producers did really well to give me the feeling that I'd been chosen really because of my personality and my presenting and the way that I came across on camera. So I thought, okay, great. So
it's so engaging.
Yeah, and that was something that I didn't really have to work at. It was just me. That was me just being me. So I thought, okay, well, at least I've got that, and so I can relax into that a bit. The dancing I can work on. There was a bit of that, but I at least felt confident enough going in. But it didn't change the fact that I just like the whole thing was so new. I can remember turning up to work every day, and it's like, man, you wouldn't tell anyone, but I'd be doing this for free. This is so fun. It was just, we had such a great time every day. Did
the freshness ever wear off? Like, being there for a decade, I feel like it'd just be so new. Pretty much, every season. Yeah,
I know what you mean, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't always easy, and we definitely had times, throughout that were harder than others. The five of us didn't always get along.
Yeah. It would have been so hard.
Yeah, I mean, you're living in each other's pockets, so it's we had our moments, but I feel like once we'd sort of sorted through, a lot of things, after a while, you just kind of, you get to learn where everyone's buttons are, and you just learn not to push them. And there was definitely, I think, a mutual respect, if nothing else, as performers. Certainly, once we'd all sort of gone through everything and grown up a bit, I think we were all performers. We were all doing the same job, and there is a sort of like mutual respect that you have for everyone. And we got along, kind of like family by the end of it. So it was an amazing time. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Did you go to HSPA?
No.
Where did you go to school?
Well, I was born on the Central Coast.
Right. Okay.
And then we moved to Sydney when I was 9, and then I didn't actually move to Newcastle until 2016.
What?
Yeah.
Right. I thought you grew up here.
No. I mean, mostly Sydney. So Central Coast, and and then Sydney. Yeah.
What do you love about Newey?
Oh man, everything. It's like, it's almost something you don't want to talk about too loud, because then everyone's going to want to live here.
It's not actually that great.
Yeah, it's not really.
Don't come.
No, it's like it's such a great town, and I think there's often an impression people have of this kind of being like a real industrial town and all of that sort of stuff, which harps back to 20, 30 years ago, if not more. So that's always been the impression people have had, and my wife and I, and we only had one daughter at the time, but in 2015 we sort of took a year off and did some house sits and stuff like that, and just sort of travelled around and just enjoyed life for a year. And one of the places that we had a house sit that we knew we could stay was here in Newcastle, and we really weren't expecting very much. I think we were there for like 4 or 5 weeks, and we were just sort of like, oh, well, that'll just be a little bit of a, stopover in between, you know. And we had such a blast.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
because like there's everything here, but so much of the stuff that makes Sydney feel almost unlivable doesn't happen here. And I think, the other thing is just the live music in Newcastle. Like, it's absolutely like so much better. I honestly think it's the best live music scene in the country.
Yeah.
And that even includes Melbourne. This is better.
Damn.
The live music scene here is brilliant. And I feel like it's actually, like in Melbourne, it's to do with the venues and them trying to get people in, because the pokey laws and stuff like that's different down there.
Yeah, okay.
But in Newcastle, it's the punters. It's the punters that make it, because it's the punters who are actually choosing the venues that have live music.
Yes.
And they don't do that anywhere else. It's like people just accept whatever, and they go wherever, to whatever watering hole they're going to go to. But here it's like, if they take the live music away, then the punters clear out and they go to the pub down the road that does have live music. And I don't know that I've encountered that anywhere else. Like, this is, it's such a great town, because the people here love live music. You know, they love the culture. They love all of that stuff. And I honestly think it's what makes Newcastle great.
Yeah, there's definitely that hunger. Like, it sounds like such a cliche, and I feel like every city says, oh, our punters are so hungry for live music, but it's true, and you can feel it
is,
here.
yeah.
You can feel it. What are some gigs that you have coming up? What are you excited to do?
So I'm doing the Marina up at Nelson Bay.
Yeah, cool.
This Saturday, and then I'm out at Patterson Tavern on the Sunday. Oh yeah, NCYC I've got. That'll be Friday next week, although I'm not sure if that's a function or not. So I don't know. But yeah, I've got a few gigs coming up. The Marina's always a good one. Being outdoors, especially if you get a nice sunny day, great place to sort of sit down and have a bite to eat and get an ice cream and just enjoy the music. But yeah, those sort of outdoor gigs are always fun. Can be a little bit. I can get a little bit louder. Yes. As we don't have, to worry too much about. Yeah, that's right. You're not boxed in. And so they're always fun. And there's usually lots of people, and you get all the kids dancing, and it's it's great. It really is fun.
That's gorgeous. Yeah. Where can we find you on socials? Like, do you have all your gig guides on there?
I will.
Yes,
I
you will.
I've been saying I will for a long time, and I will. I'm sort of trying to do a bit of a revamp at the moment, but so I'm at Tim J Harding on Instagram, and I think I'm Tim Harding Official on Facebook.
Nice.
And that's pretty much it. I think I don't use the other Elon Musk one anymore. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Fair enough.
It just kind of, it all went downhill, and now it's just bots, and
it hasn't worked. Not a vibe. Before I let you go, I'd love to know, are there any venues that you'd like to give a shout out to that make you feel right at home?
Well, NCYC is definitely one of them. I always feel, those guys are great. And as well as, actually thinking about it, the Marina as well are always so lovely every time I go there. The staff are brilliant. Everyone's always super helpful. But any venue that gives you free drinks is...
It's true.
It's true. They're the best ones.
Yeah, it helps a lot. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thanks for having me.